just want to call you.
Pardon us for the technical issue with the streaming. We are now back. Has anybody called in?
No.
Nothing. Okay. So this is a special call meeting of the Commissioners Court. It is now 8:45. Again, sorry for the technical difficulties. All commissioners are here. All notices have been duly posted, and the court is duly called. Is there a motion to open court?
Moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Bailiff will please open court.
All rise. Dallas County Commissioners Court, the special call meeting is now in session. The Honorable Clay Lewis Jenkins presiding. You may be seated.
And I didn't think I said so, but the motion was unanimous to open court. And so thank you all. Our only matter before us is the RFP on a 2-year service agreement with 3 one-year renewal options for e-poll books. Is there a motion and a second on that so we can open discussion?
So moved. Second.
All right. The
Got
matter
plenty
has
of-
been motioned and seconded. I know Commissioner Price has some questions as
We all do.
Okay, it sounds like everybody does. So maybe just
Well, I'm waiting for information still. I had
Okay.
asked for information
Okay.
with regards to the scoring, and I'll take it that purchasing has that. I generated that in addition to,
so he'll wait for a minute. Let me ask you a couple, and I'll see what the commissioners have. I think you may have answered my question, but I want you to run through it if you would. I understand that, of course, I understand that ES&S has been decertified, and so this is somewhat of a hypothetical because they're decertified. But if they weren't, and we continued on with the ES&S product, at the end of that contract that we entered into, we would incur a certain amount of money. If we go to no ink, at the end of the 5 years, we will incur a certain amount of money. Taking into account the state's 80%, can you walk us through what the delta to that is?
So, I know you had that question. What I did was I took all the money we spent on ES&S since 2019 to 2020, basically, to 2024, that 5-year span. And I compared it to the 5-year contract we're putting in front of you, right? Since the first contract in 2019 and all the maintenance support contracts we've renewed and extended with ES&S, we spent in hardware, software, license, and maintenance, right? The items that are similar in, let's say, an amount, $8.6 million. If you take the contract in front of you and you count hardware, license, and software, basically don't include those optional items listed there, those optional support hours, right? Compare hardware, software, and maintenance. Sorry about that. That would be $10.5 million. So the difference between those two is about $1.8 million. That is just net numbers, right? The goal here is to get back about $4 or $5 million from that state grant from the state, that grant from the state, that reimbursement for the number of units they say they'll pay for that we used in November. But worst case scenario, like just comparing the 2 5-year contracts, there's a difference of $1.8 million, which is about 21%.
Okay, and that is assuming the state pays their 80%.
That is without assuming we're not going to get a single penny, right? Just raw numbers.
I want you to assume the state pays the 80% and answer it also.
Give me 2 minutes and I'll give you that answer.
but regardless, the state, regardless of either one, it'll be the same with the state. The delta is 1.8. This is $1.8 million more.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I get it. That's.
I don't think it is with the state's 80%.
Yes, it is. It'd be the same with the state. I mean, when the state comes in, it's the same.
I didn't get that part, sir. Sorry. Let me.
Well, I'm not asking how much the state's out. I'm kind of selfishly asking about our local tax dollars.
$1.8 million. That's what he just said. They said with his $1.8 million more.
Mr. Garcia, is that right?
More than, again, this is comparing the 5-year ago contract to this year. And I
understand
actually
that.
Googled up, the inflation since 2019 has been 23%.
Okay.
We're actually under the inflation rate if you actually want to compare the
Yeah,
two.
I'm not critical. I'm just
6-year-old
trying to get
contract.
my head around it. Okay. So with the state paying 80%, it's this mess by ES&S is 1.8 million, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if, just because I think the question may come up and because we're all rushing to get this done, so the other bidder was Votech. Do we know if we had chosen Votech, what that delta would be from ES&S?
I believe their price was higher, actually.
A little higher.
Mark can confirm.
So in the ballpark of a couple million or something?
1.9 maybe, 1.2.
Okay.
So basically, are you saying it's 100,000? They're basically the same, 1.8, 1.9.
Yes, sir. The other
Okay.
solution was around
But right now, Votech is basically ingrained in our system. It doesn't matter who we choose; they're going to have to hook up to Votech. Is that correct?
they're going to have to what?
They're going to have to be part of the conversion for Votech. Votech is in our system.
Votech
Presently.
is the incumbent provider of a voter registration system.
Exactly. Now, are you getting ready to do a forcible entry and detainer? They're not going anywhere, are they?
Their contract ends at the end of this year. We'll be going out soon for an RFP on a voter reg system, sir.
I'm talking about real soon. This hurry up is about May.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Votech is in, right?
Votech is not in. Votech does voter registration system. They have no part in poll books.
I get that. But they do have poll book.
It did make an offer, yes.
Okay. They did not make an offer.
They did make an offer.
Okay. And the difference between their offer and this ink system was basically what? $100,000.
I don't remember the number. I said that off the top of my head. Do we have an exact number on that?
They're in the ballpark. Let me.
Yeah.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt your train of thought there. So, because I had some people ask me, some precinct chairs asked me, and if you could, in case they're watching, just answer this question. So why couldn't we all just wait for ES&S and see if they get certified? And I know the answer to this, but if you could tell us.
We could, but we can't promise you they'll get certified, right? A certification has to go, they have to go in with their technical team. They're still doing regression testing, the last update they gave us. They're still testing what they're going to submit. So right now, I don't know if they're done testing and they're like already know that they are ready to submit, right? Which is what you would think. First you test, then you get ready, and then you submit for testing. The risk there is, what if they don't pass? They have a date of March 3rd. Say it takes a week and a half to test, certify, produce the report. We're looking at mid-March. We're about a week away from starting poll worker training. If that day the answer is, oops, they didn't pass, we're dead. There's no longer an option to do anything if you wait all the way down to March.
Votech is already certified.
And so is Knowing, sir.
Okay, I get that. And Knowing is in one county in this state. How many places is Votech?
I'm sorry, you said Knowing is...
Knowing is in one county.
Knowing is in multiple counties, probably about maybe a third of the
Are you
state.
talking? I'm not talking about comparable county. I'm talking about Denton. I'm talking about Tarrant, where you came from.
Yes, sir.
The one county.
They have that. They have-
One urban county. Is that correct?
in the state of Texas, yes.
In the state of Texas. I'm not talking about what's going on in New York and Pennsylvania. I know they're in Pennsylvania. Some of us have done some homework. I'm not going to be steered with regards to that. Votech is certified. Is that correct?
They both are, sir, yes.
Now, I didn't ask you about it. Is Votech certified?
Yes, sir, it is.
Votech is in right now. We have Votech.
We have a
At
voter
voter
registration
registration-
system by Votech. They have nothing to do with poll books.
I get that. We have nothing with Knowing right now. Correct.
Correct, we don't.
Okay. But Votech we do.
We have the voter registration system, yes.
Okay, we had a voter registration. If for some reason we had to do, and by the way, I have Tarrant County's contract about the conversion. If you do, knowing, does VOTEC have to do conversion?
What do you mean conversions?
Well, conversion. It's not their system. Are they going to have to do conversion to get to use our system?
I don't know what you mean by do a conversion, sir. I am sorry.
Well, you had to do it in Tarrant County for this, and I guess you were there.
I was there. I awarded that bid.
So they had to go, and conversion was a challenge for them in Tarrant County. Yes, I mean
I wasn't there when they actually deployed it.
Okay.
That was the time when I left. But
Okay.
if you say, I'll
well,
take
no,
a
no.
look at it.
This is a contract. If you need to read it. My point is that the VOTEC system, they're going to have to do, and I've got a ton of questions here. Did we contact any counties with regards to VoteSafe and their poll book solutions? Did we?
I don't know if purchasing checked those references. I believe that we did.
Yes, we checked. We reached out to 3, none of which were in Texas because of the expedition.
You reached out to what?
We reached out to 3 counties, none of which were in Texas.
What were the 3?
It's County Cook, Illinois,
Oh, okay.
State, Rhode Island, and they both responded with favorable results.
So
What was the
Cook
third
County,
county?
Illinois is one of them?
I apologize. Cook County, Illinois.
Okay.
Yes, sir. State of Rhode Island.
What was
as
the
well.
third?
And Clark County, Nevada, which did not respond in time for us to.
I talked to Clark County last night, knowing they got Knowing Inc. Yeah, I talked about VOTEC. No, I said VOTEC.
Sir, if I may,
Oh,
I believe
misunderstood. I think we all
VOTEC
misunderstood
included.
him. He's not asking you about who did you talk to for No Inc.
Oh,
He's
I'm sorry.
asking you who did you talk to for VOTEC. Is that right?
We
Yes.
did,
Yeah, we
did
both
not-
misunderstood.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I apologize. We did not reach out to anyone for VOTEC since VOTEC
Since
is
they
not
were-
being recommended, sir.
So when you reached out to Cook, it was Cook and the entire state of Rhode Island, right? That's what you said?
Cook County, Illinois, or Chicago.
Cook County, Illinois.
Yeah. So who did you reach out to at Cook County? Their elections administrator?
It would have been their elections representative.
And what'd they say?
We sent them a series of questions, and they were all favorable.
Okay.
All right, can I ask a question back on the first question that was asked on the dollars? I didn't quite follow you there in terms of the delta difference on the cost. I didn't quite get the math as to how that all worked out. Let me ask you a series of questions, and then maybe that'll answer it if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
So we will have an initial outlay of dollars to actually purchase this equipment that we would not have if we stayed with ES&S, but that initial outlay will be deferred by the state. Is that correct? Or in part?
Yes.
Okay, and it's to the tune of 80% of the original outlay of dollars for the hardware itself or the system itself. Is that correct?
Hardware, the way the grant reads is the same number of devices that were used in November 2024. They will reimburse us up to that amount.
Gotcha.
That's regardless.
Right, I understand. All right. Now, the 20% difference, is there a chance that the state will make up that through other grants?
Yes, and what I was looking at you and scrolling is because I wanted to get that number the judge asked, and it's relevant to your question. We used 3,152 units in November. The cost of that on this contract is $4.4 million. That's the target to get reimbursed. State said, we'll do 80%, you do 20. But they also said, for your 20 matching, you are allowed to use what we call Chapter 19, which is a grant the state has been giving us for years and we've been building up. We have enough to match almost 90% of those $4 million, which would basically leave us with about, I think, $300,000, somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 to finish making that. My intent is if you do the award to take the money that was allocated for the ESNS annual license, the 400,000, and use that to finish supplementing so that we use all the free money we've gotten from the state and we use minimal money of the general fund to get those 3,152.
Okay, so I'm sorry if I could.
No, go ahead.
All right, so the hardware dollar outlay,
That's-
we will have an additional cost of some amount for the initial outlay for the equipment that we're getting from No. Is that right?
Yes. And
Okay. And that amount is about $400,000 after all the grants that you just
Correct.
outlined. Then, in addition to those dollars, there is a contract cost associated with the ongoing software updates and service agreements. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Now, there is a delta here, as I understand it, between No and ESNS. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
With an increased cost for the No contract. Is that correct?
Correct.
And how many dollars is that? Is that the 1.8?
You mean
Forget the
annual
1.8.
license
Let me
with-
ask the question.
Yes.
What's the delta?
Between the annual license after we do all the hardware
Yes.
purchase. Yes, we were paying ESNS $450,000 a year. This contract is, if you take the optionals out to 50 to 90, that's about $1 million a year.
600,000 delta.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Okay, so plus an 8, plus whatever the dollars are to get the original hardware in.
Correct.
And that's the amount that doesn't equal 1.8 though, I was wondering where that 1.8 came from.
That 1.8 is, again, if you take the cost of buying ESNS's hardware and the 5 years of licenses that we paid, and you take this contract and you take the price of the hardware and the 5-year licenses, the difference between those two numbers is 1.8.
Got it.
So 5-year to 5-year contract,
Yeah.
this one is 1.8 more than what we have actually spent year on year, dollar on dollar in ESNS over 5 years.
Gotcha. But the state will defer some of those dollars.
Without deducting the $4.4 million you expect to be back. So at that point, we're saving.
All right, let me go back to my math question then. Given that the state will give us grants to the tune of probably 90%, total, and there's a delta in the cost of the maintenance agreements, how many more dollars is the No contract? After the state is deducted and everything else, how many delta dollars are there?
The $300,000 to finish year one,
Okay,
and then every year after that, $900,000.
900,000. So about 1.2.
1 million. 1 million.
So about 1.3 is the delta. Is that correct?
You're saying for year one? No, for year one, it's only the $300,000.
Okay, for
Everything
5
else, we're
years.
covering that. And then every year after that, it's the $1 million
Which is 600 more
than what we would have paid.
Right.
But you just got through saying regardless. I don't, you can do the
with
math
either
anyway.
of them. It's about
Yeah, it's the same.
It's-
It's the same regardless of Votech or the Inc. contract.
I didn't do the exercise with the vendor that is not on the table to be awarded, but my recollection is that both offers were similar in full value of the contract. Now, the breakdown inside, I cannot tell you if Votech was $1 million a year or if it was $100 a year and there was just a lot of money on hardware. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers.
Do we have to have any other devices to purchase to recommend these e-poll books work?
What was the question again?
What other devices would Dallas County need to purchase to make the recommended e-poll books work?
None.
None.
Everything's included in here.
Okay. Is there a Raspberry? Because we've been down this road with Tenor.
No.
We've been down this road with Tenor. So we don't have anything else that we're going to have to purchase to make this thing work seamlessly.
No, sir.
With NOAA Inc. How will the voter registration data flow from Votech system to another vendor's e-poll book solution?
We do what's called an import process, just like we're doing now. You go to the voter reg system, you do an export of the data, and then you move it and you copy it into the cloud system. And then every day at the end of, let's say, early voting, you go to the cloud system and say, give me the list of everyone who voted, and you import it into the VR system and say, mark these people as, mark their voter history.
And we're not anticipating any trouble with that running smooth by the May joint election.
That's a pretty standard process, sir.
Well, no, it hasn't been standard. We've had issues, and I can go back and point them to you. We've had issues before. So I hear what you're saying. It's the reason I'm putting it on the record and asking you, how willing Votech be to assist us if we purchased a competitor's poll book? Was Votech at the presentation, correct?
Yes, they did their
Okay,
presentation.
okay.
Sir.
So, and I understand that they had some commentary. Is that correct?
Somewhat.
Commentary.
They did, yes.
Okay. So how willing will they be for us to assist us in using the competitor's e-poll book?
We already pay for the licenses and what we need to do the job. They really don't have to do anything.
Okay. So we don't need them.
We don't need them.
They can walk away. So
Yep.
So what about?
They're still going to do our voter registration.
Well, I'm talking about this conversion.
Okay.
I'm in this conversion, Judge. So what will take place regarding the level of support that we will need to provide? In other words, does IT even have the resources, the tools, the time to be able to make this conversion? We don't need IT. Is that
IT does not. I mean, they have really good experts that have helped us when we need to, but again, this is a very standard process of writing a report and extracting the data to a text file and then copying it over to a separate computer.
Okay, so what would prevent Dallas County from already using available laptops, installing Votech, VoteSafe, the printers, and using the solutions for one or more elections? What would prohibit that?
Well, you can't just grab any random laptop and do it. It has to be the hardware that's been certified by the state, and that's what we asked Votech to put on the table.
And Votech has been, so.
Right, and they put their offer on the table, and and they
Okay.
didn't get it.
Okay. So has anyone considered that solution line to explore more in detail the best? I guess what I'm asking, what harm would there be to use that option?
What was? I'm sorry, sir.
To use
What
the
harm would
option
there be to
of
use
laptops that are already available, installing Votech, VoteSafe, and the printer, using the
Sir,
solution.
we can't grab random hardware and install software. That would not be compliant with the state certification. The state says, this is the hardware I certified, and if you want to use a laptop as... I asked that question, sir, a month and a half ago when we weren't getting any answers from our vendor, our current vendor, on what the options were. I called the state and said, I got a bunch of laptops sitting in my office. Can I install VoteSafe and get going? And they said no. You have to get the certified system from the vendor. If it's not the exact same model, the exact same printer, the exact same software, it's not a legally certified poll book, and you're going to be in trouble. Yeah. We have to. So that's why we told them, you have an opportunity to come to the table and put your offer. And their offer is to give you 4,500 laptops with VoteSafe installed and the printers and everything we need, cost this much. And that's what they demoed, and that's what we evaluated.
Let me ask you a quick
Hey,
question.
wait,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
lying.
Go ahead.
Mr. Commissioner Price.
So what are the terms of contract with this recommended vendor? There are ironclad service level agreement, which we've had issues in the past with them, to make sure that they will support the equipment and the software for a reasonable time.
They have included their virtual technical support, and we have the maintenance and security there. We also included a number of support on site hours that we can take advantage of. We've secured 65 days in a row. So basically, from both vendors, we asked. This is a really aggressive timeline. We want someone on site pretty much every day from the award all the way down to election day, right? And then we can we have subsequent support days that we can add throughout the years if we need them.
So what is the drop dead date, delivery date for ready to use ePoba?
In the RFP, we put April 2nd was the last batch. This vendor has agreed to deliver pretty much all of the 4,500 devices. I believe it was March 18, which is way ahead of what we had even thought about asking. In fact, to make sure that we could separate the part that we're going to get reimbursed from by the state from the part we're not, we actually asked them to push back the last 1,300 units to October 1st so that we would pay for them with next year's fiscal year budget, so that we can keep two separate invoices. The invoice we hope to get reimbursed by from the state and the one. But they were pretty aggressive. They said, we'll deliver everything by March 18, I think it was.
Well, it's not as though you were here, but we've had this before, and they delivered, and of course we paid for it, and then of course we got locked out. So, how much does the recommended EPO book system? What's the weight of this system? What's the weight of these EPO books?
The weight of the device?
Sure. I've had election
19
judges
pounds
ask.
in the case, the whole thing packed. I believe they said 19 pounds. I can look it up quickly.
Okay, and so it's still the same convenience factor for the poll worker.
Isn't that better than what we had?
No, same. That's
19,
It's
20,
easier
20.
to assemble.
It was 20. That's the reason. Yeah, I was.
Sorry, sir. 9 pounds. 9 pounds with the Express Vote printer. 9.5 pounds.
So it's
Okay.
9 pounds.
9.5 pounds, yes.
Did any of the poll workers get any feedback on this? Did they get a chance to look at it at all?
No, sir.
Okay.
I was part of the process, and I was a poll worker, and I had a chance
there you go.
to look
Okay.
at both.
So what do you
And
think?
to use both
It's
of
going to be a lot easier for seniors?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And less assembly, right, Ms. Richardson?
Yes.
A lot less assembly.
Yes.
These e-poll books are going to be compatible with these all of this we spent on this new curbside transport cards that we purchased.
The curbside card won't be a problem, sir. They have a big drawer in the bottom we intentionally built so that they could carry accessories there.
Okay. Thank you. You're done, Commissioner?
Well, go ahead. I'll yield, but I'm not through.
Mr. Garcia, VoteSafe, as you mentioned, is poll book compatible with our voter registration system. But what you're saying is that when we transfer the data, which is what we need to do in this case, VoteSafe and Inc. have pretty much the same on-time transmission of data. Can you elaborate on how is the data transfer? Is it safe? Why do you think that No Inc. it's better than VoteSafe?
So they have two different architectures, right? VoteSafe being the incumbent of the voter reg system, they built a way to directly link through, secure channels. The cloud system that controls you voted here, let me tell the other poll books to the voter reg. So one of their selling points was when you check someone in, that is automatically flowing all the way directly to your voter reg system. No Inc. obviously is not the incumbent, and at some point, I think when we write the RFP for VR systems, we're going to want to demand that channel be open to whoever our vendor is, but they don't have that access. They operate the way that most poll books do, which is they have a cloud system, they do all their transactions, they tell their poll books, and then you have to go and say, give me the record of everything, and you bring it in, and you import it into your voter reg system. Which one's better is going to depend on what your evaluation, your criteria tells you. The real-time connection that VoteSafe offers, Votec, may be pretty convenient in terms of you don't have to do this import and this file handling. But from an IT security perspective, there's a link between your internal voter reg system and a cloud system that is exposed to the world. You don't have an air gap. So the other system, it's not extremely convenient. We have to do more work as a department. We have to go at the end of the day, pull the records, come back, import, check and balance, but it's air gapped. You cannot get to our system from the outside world. So you may see some differences in the criteria of those who evaluate it. I would say, I personally, being someone with an IT background, I keep the air gap, and I appreciate that from the system that Knowing has.
Okay. So you really feel that No Inc. is a system, that the committee, the purchasing committee selected, it's a good option for Dallas County. It's safe. It has also the paper trail, which our original intent was to always have a second way of knowing where the election results are. So this Vote Inc. has it, right? I mean, No Inc. has it.
They print out the receipts and they activate the ballot. That paper trail part is, but both systems are basically digital signature capture, right? You're signing on screen on both of them. I feel confident with this solution. I think, in an ideal world, we didn't put ourselves in this situation, right? We would have taken 6 months to do this bid. We would have brought it to SEAC. We would have brought it to a lot of people. We would have invited the parties. We would have done a lot more open. We didn't choose to be in this situation, right? We were told, hey, deal with it.
Yeah, we were the certified and
we were happy. We were happy in our La La Land 6 months ago with a certified system that worked, and then we weren't. Wake up, time to do something. So in this scenario, I think we have, given the time we have, we're lucky to have one very viable, solid option. This is a system that is used, again, in large counties across the nation. The largest county in the nation, LA County, uses the system, and it works for them. It works for Cook County, Illinois. It works for Platte County. I mean, big volume, right? Which is one of the concerns we had. Check. It's used in probably, I would say, a third, if I recall the map well, of the counties in Texas. So they know the Texas processes. They know the Texas workflows. They're certified here. So not worried about that either. The risk we have, and we have it with any vendor that would have come in, is we have to take control of it and own it and run it.
Right.
But that's on us. That we control that.
We control that with them, right? The IT department, like you told Commissioner Price, Dallas County IT department will not be involved in any of this.
Oh, we'll ask them for help if we need to, right? Hey,
but not.
We have to set up specific certificates to encrypt the tunnel, whatever. They'll be involved, of course.
Right.
But the operational. Here it is. Here's the instruction manual. Let's train you. Let's set up an election and let's train the poll workers. That's us. We control that. We can make it happen.
Correct.
So I feel good. I feel good that we at least have a viable option.
Okay. Will they provide white glove maintenance service? Is there issues during the election that the process escalates? About response of these companies. Will they physically have someone here to troubleshoot and help identify solutions at the time of the voting?
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, we in the bid we requested that whoever got this, again, this compressed timeline we have, would have to commit to having someone on site from the moment we started all the way down to May. So someone's going to be moving to Dallas County soon. And that's for the first implementation. And then after that, we have in the contract the ability to schedule someone to be on site a number of days a year every time we need it. So
excellent.
I expect that number of days on site to be higher as we start, and then as we master this out, start decreasing.
The priority one issues what is the expected turnaround for them to have the results and the specific feedback on the costs? On the cost of the root cause analysis, what's the turnaround that they will have?
That depends, right? I don't think that there's a commitment to getting to the root cause of an issue. That takes what it takes to investigate, and depending on what it is. But we do have, on-site support, like I said, for critical moments, and that there's a whole terms of agreement there on how to escalate issues to them. It's pretty standard language that we use.
Okay. Training. I mean, this will require that our, election personnel gets retrained. It's a different system. There's a lot of retraining that we have to do.
Yes,
Are
ma'am.
we thinking about doing the same training sessions with all our election workers?
Every single poll worker is going to have to be retrained for the May election and for November and so on, right? So We will be doing a lot of training. We've already put together a preliminary calendar of training that assumes every single person that's going to work in May is going to have to go to training and probably refresher courses and things like that. We need to start March 20-something, forgive me for not knowing the exact date, and that's enough time for us to train everyone. The way we designed the schedule, they're committed to having first set of 100 units here before the end of February, I believe. Those are the units for the training classrooms and everything. So looks like it's all good.
The decision has to be made just for us to have enough time, pretty
Out of
quick.
time, yes. We have to decide to do something today.
Talking about the contract, I mean, I feel pretty good that the DA's office put some of the key points as far as withholding payments till compliance is achieved, and obviously a termination rule in case that they do not perform.
Yeah, and
feel confident?
I
with
feel
what we
confident, and
have?
I think, thank you, I mean, the purchasing team, the legal team, everyone, the admin team, because we did do kind of a deep dive of lessons learned, and this is the third poll book vendor in 6 years that we have to deal with in Dallas County if this goes through. What are the lessons learned we have? And so even what you mentioned, Commissioner Price, about being locked out of our old devices, there's a clause in there that says these are our devices, and the day we decide to terminate this contract, you have a legal obligation to turn them over and unlock them for us to use them whatever we want, right? So
It was in our last one too, but we still got our ass locked out.
okay, but
but
it's
go ahead.
there, and there's an enforceable clause now to act on that, right? So, thank you to both the legal, the admin, both the three, the purchasing team for all the effort to kind of collect all that information and help build it into a contract. I feel is very solid.
Perfect. And so those sanctions for not compliance are there, and you feel happy with them. The 2,000, going back to Commissioner Summerman's question, the $2,250 per day per person with a 10% discount. What exactly does that mean at all? If we need additional, they're going to charge additional cost anyway, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that 10% discount is what?
Nothing.
Nothing, exactly.
Sales
But
tool.
that's okay. I mean, it's a selling point. Agree. Last but not least, because of the Dallas County purchasing rules, Mr. Garcia, you were not part of the selection committee.
I was involved. I saw the demos. I was sitting in the room. I did not fill out a scorecard, which is first time I told that. But that's the process in Dallas, and we follow the process that the purchasing department has.
You feel confident that they reached the right decision?
I do. And I think the key is in the variety of the panel. We had IT people so that they could focus on IT security issues and not have surprises. We didn't think about the enterprise term, whatever. Like, again, lessons learned from the past, right? And then there were 5 subject matter experts from our team from different areas: voter reds, tabulation, operations, warehouse data, and the deputy admin. So I think this was looked at from all critical angles to ask the questions that we needed to ask. And yeah, I feel comfortable with what we have in front of you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcia. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, colleagues.
I think Dr. Daniel has some questions. Before that, let me clarify one thing. If we vote on this contract and we vote for the contract today, is that for 31 and 50 machines, or is that for more machines?
4,500. We just split the invoicing in.
And so explain to us, since we just did a presidential big election, we used 3150. Why do we need to buy an additional 1,400 or 1,350 machines?
When you get to March next year and you have, March, May, and you have back-to-back elections that almost overlap, there's very little time to turn around the units you have out on the field and prep them for the election coming up, especially in that May municipal and May runoff election. And so you have scenarios where if you have a countywide primary runoff, let's say county judge, right, you have to have enough coverage for the entire county at the end of May, but at the beginning of May, your devices are out on election day and you're not preparing them, right? So there's an overlap, a need for big inventory there. And also keep in mind the legislature hasn't been easy on us, allowing us to reduce locations even though we're vote centers. So what used to be we have 200-ish, 250 locations in May is now it's a 450 site every single time we go around. So we do need a number of units for that.
Dr. Daniel?
I just have a couple of questions. First of all, thank you very much for the amount of information that you did provide. But for clarification, the amount that is included on the briefing order is $7,648,750, right? And that is for what? Is that 1 year of operation, or is it for the 6 years of operation?
I am going to almost defer that to purchasing, but my understanding is it's the 2 mandatory years that we're entering into the contract. This is a 2-year contract with a option to renew 3 times, correct, Mayor? Which means the commitment this court is making is years 1 and 2 is that $7 million. But the materials tell you, for the 5, if you wanted to have a full view of what it would cost if you did the 3 renewals, is that $11 million total we have there. Did I say that right, Mayor?
So the $7 million is the 2-year contract.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's half per year.
Yes, ma'am. It's a 2-year contract with 3 1-year renewal options, and that's why you're considering the 2 years today. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I was a little confused on what the actual cost was. There are no subcontractors? Is that why SBE is not involved?
I am going to turn to my right.
That's right.
Could you repeat your question, please?
I thought I heard that SBE is not involved. Is that because there are no subcontractors?
When you say not involved, I've been involved in the entire process, but as far as participation, as it relates to this award, the 2 subcontractors that No Inc. provided were not SBE certified, and one in particular was not eligible. They are a huge, large firm out of St. Louis, and they're not eligible. They're over the $1 billion threshold, so they don't meet the small business enterprise requirement.
Okay, that was one of the alternative companies, right?
They were one of the subcontractors.
No, sub.
And they were going to provide.
There are subcontractors.
There are, yes, ma'am. They just did not receive points because they're not SBE certified according to our program requirements.
If they're too large, then it's irrelevant, I guess.
But when you but are they? Let's put it on the record. I mean, I love the way we dance around this shit. Are they minority companies?
One is a minority certified company, and one is a woman-owned company. But according to our program, which is race and gender neutral,
I get all that. So the minority-owned company was what?
African American, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Certified.
Certified, but not with
the $1 million threshold. I get it. Okay.
There is a map included on page 6 of the No-Link.
Okay.
And it looks like there are 2 stars in Texas. So is it Tarrant County and Travis County, or what are those 2?
I know they're in Tarrant County, and I know they're in Denton County. I don't know another urban county because I was searching, and I didn't find it. That's what I said.
I think it's Denton and Tarrant.
Yeah, they're in Tarrant is the only urban large county. Everything else is small counties.
So the stars are kind of not quite well placed.
Yeah.
Let's see, anything else?
Yeah, it looks like those are the large counties around the country they're kind of highlighting there, I think.
Yeah, I just wondered what the 2 stars were in Texas. And I thought that one was Tarrant. I saw that reference. But I didn't see what the second reference was.
Tarrant and Denton.
Tarrant and Denton?
Yes.
Okay. And then my last question is then that you are recommending that we do sign this contract with No Inc.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so I have a few more if I could, please. Sure. Votech, did they promise to meet the deadlines that we could get the voting off?
So their proposal was kind of a hybrid 2-step thing. They initially, Mario, please feel free to say stop if I'm saying something that is not disclosable. I'm not sure the rules here, but
Yes, Mr. Garcia, it's probably not a good idea to divulge any information in the competitor's proposal.
Okay.
Wait. Stop. That's, he asked a very generic question.
Yeah, can Votech meet the timeline? That's the question.
Yeah. That's generic.
In my opinion, no.
Okay.
All right, fair
They
enough.
came up with we'll give you this, and in the meantime, we'll swap out, and then we'll make it to November.
Got it. Okay,
And
good.
you should be able to survive May. That was my interpretation of what they ended up
Yeah,
putting on the table.
you'll survive it as kind
You
of
survive May, and then you'll get the
Right.
cool final toy reel thing in November.
but no week was we can meet the
All
deadline.
in from the
Okay.
beginning.
I mean, okay.
Oh, fine. Now, training. Let me ask about that real quick. Will No Inc. be able to provide some help with regard to training? I'm talking about the individual poll workers. Are they going to help us with that?
Right. That's why we wanted a person on site. We want that person to train our trainers. We want that person to be in the first classes. And if they even have to, they said, look, we'll train you. Or we've paid for a number of days. So if we can bring a second person in if we want to and then have two people, I mean, it's man hours that we pay for, right? So that's on the table as an option if we feel we
But
need it.
training is an imperative,
Yes, sir.
especially with a new system.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Number one.
Yes, sir.
And probably as much or even more important than the dadgum equipment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So training is just an imperative. And I know other people have in here too, but said on some of the training. And that was with systems that there was familiarity. This is all new.
Sir, both are all new. Poll workers have zero familiarity with either one of the options on the table.
No. I'm talking about whatever is proposed today. That's correct. But as I said, it's all new. And I saw the other system and the training. And so it's training is this an imperative.
Absolutely. It's going to be key. I think this product is at that point where it's user-friendly enough that it's going to help us actually with the training. It's pretty straightforward, but you're absolutely right. We have to put as much, if not more, muscle into training than in the internal part because it's 450 election day locations that need to know how to do this and do it right.
All right. And then, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm wondering how much is each machine? I keep going back in my mind to your example of the runoff. Let's assume there's a runoff next election. But would it be cheaper to hire some temporary help to help program machines between the runoff and the May election, or would it be cheaper to buy the machines? I'm assuming it must be cheaper to buy the machines, right?
I would buy the machines also because there's always replacements, changes. There's always a number of things that happen. You have to have a stock of spare units, right? I mean, on election day, who knew that we were going to be shooting out almost 80 units out because we had an issue, right? Thank God we had a couple hundred spares sitting on a shelf to react, remember?
You're asking for 1,350 spares.
No, I'm asking for 1,350 so that when we do the May municipal and we deploy, say, 2,500, I have 2,000 I can prepare and get ready while those are out there for the early voting of the primary runoff and then for election day of the
I
primary
get
runoff.
that, and I'm sure you've gone through it, and you're right. But I'm trying to get in my mind. Okay, so we've got all these extra machines, and the reason we have the extra machines is there might be a runoff in the March election. So let's say that runs us into sometime in April. Now we got to get ready for that May election, right? But how much does each of those 1,350 machines cost? Because you also could have help in programming the machines that we get done with in the runoff. You would already have a bunch of machines programmed because you're not using 3,150 in the runoff, right? And then would it be cheaper to have somebody come help us program, or is it better to buy the machines because they cost whatever, $1,000 a machine, and the time of programming would eat all that up? You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I can run some numbers for you and then add. And there's also a matter of records retention and that kind of thing. I want to make sure that we. Off the top of my head, I try to remember if the 60-day electronic record preservation clause applies to poll books, which means we can't touch,
that's the key.
override what's in there.
You're correct.
I'm just going to throw that out there and say.
No, you're correct. That is
have
correct.
to keep
That
them.
is
There are
correct.
certain limitations to, like even flash drives, we can't reuse them for 60 days. They have to be preserved untouched.
If someone
And I think the
buy-
poll books fall into that, and that's another reason why it's like, even if we wanted to, we still have to
Right.
But
And
I
I
may be
think,
wrong on that
Judge,
one. I'll get back to you and confirm that.
No, that is
I
correct.
think Mr. Garcia is right, and not only that, I mean, you don't want to run the risk that you don't have enough machines for the next election.
It's not,
It's not-
that's
I think that's right. But my thought was, if we never need it, we can buy them anytime we want to. Just
Well,
like,
and-
right.
Yeah, and Melissa, the deputy's telling me there's a scenario we have to also assume. Like, for example, if the parties want to have a joint primary, you just doubled your number of primary poll books you need. So there are a lot of scenarios here that force us to be prepared and have that number of devices.
I have one more area of inquiry, if I could, please, and let's talk about payroll. The no ink poll books, they are able to include the data associated with the workers coming in and logging in and so forth and so on that needs to be done so it can be downloaded to ADP and get these folks paid on time. Is that right?
They have a functionality where the poll worker can check in and timestamp. I checked in at this hour.
Yeah.
So now we'll go and explore it. But the basic process would be similar to what we have right now, right? People check in on the device, they record their time, and then we pull that and we move on to the payroll system to run.
Well, because that's not on for us to discuss, I'm not going to delve into that because I got a real problem with the system we have now in terms of, so we can't talk about it right now. But as long as we can link up. And-
Good. That was my last point of inquiry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other concerns? Hearing none, the question is before us. Okay.
We do have a speaker on this item.
Is there a speaker here? Wesley Bowen. Wesley Bowen. Wesley Bowen. Is Wesley Bowen on the stream? He's not. Okay. Got a motion and a second with regards to the item that is before us. What says the court?
Move to approve.
Well,
Second.
no, we got a motion second.
We already have it.
Aye.
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 Those who are opposed, nay. By a vote of probably 3 ayes and 1 nay, it passes.
Where is the judge?
He had to go do something. Okay. Anyway, it passes. Okay. Is there anything else, Mr. Martin, to come before this special call meeting?
No, sir.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Wait, we got a speaker. Sorry.
I've already done that, Judge.
Oh, he's not here.
He's not here.
And we did the vote. Do you want
Okay.
to redo
You
the
want
vote?
to make a reconsider? It was 3-1, but you want to reconsider?
Oh, sure. Move to reconsider.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion to reconsider. Well, no, you have to move it. You need to move it. No, stop.
Yeah.
You need to move it, Summerman.
Because
You move it.
I move it or second it, whichever you like.
And I second, I accept this. I accept the
Okay, got it. Motion to reconsider. Okay, now, motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, I'm an aye, but I am a little concerned about the extra $1,350. But okay.
Okay. Okay, now, before us, again, the motion is before us for the approval that's before us. And we voted.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those who are opposed, nay. About 4-1, it passes. Okay.
Or did the speaker not show up?
No,
No.
I did. And I called for him both here and online.
Great. All right. Continuous improvement starts when?
Now.
39 minutes ago.
That's right.
All right.
It's posted. It's
It's posted.
If I may, members of the court, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you on behalf of the elections department. And I didn't want to leave without giving a big shout out to purchasing and legal and admin because honestly, 3 weeks ago, I said, this is impossible. And literally they said, hold my beer. And here we are, and they made it happen. So thank you, all of you, for making it happen. This is huge, and we appreciate it at the elections.
Good.
We can't wait to hear what happens.
Okay.
And it's going to be challenging, very, very challenging. And I want to thank all the election personnel that I know they're about to start working like crazy. So thank you all.
And I think Commissioner Summerman, you chair continuous
I
improvement.
do.
You want to hammer?
No, I'm good.
All right.
I got a big enough voice.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I didn't do my. Yes. She did these and the gray ones.
I got those for a long time, but I assume you used it.
And I'm ready to begin whenever the rest of the court signals me.
hold on just a second.
All good.
Hey, bring me my continuous improvement binder. Yeah.
All right.
It's all good, Commissioner Price?
That's the contract.
Go ahead on.
All right, good. Thank you.
Proceed.
All right, good. Welcome to the February 11th Continuous Improvement Steering Committee meeting. Can I please have a motion to open?
All legal notices have been posted, and I so move.
Second.
We have a quorum. Yep.
And we have a quorum. All in favor?
Aye.
We're open. Very good. Thank you. The ayes have it. All right. The first item, Mr. Bazan, we have here is the discussion regarding the Justice of the Peace Courts and Security. If you would, please give us the parametrical framework, and then we'll begin the discussion, if we could, please.
Yes, sir. This item was requested to be placed on the agenda. This has obviously been a conversation that's had between the court and various departments over the last several months.
Is there audio?
And Trey, if you could pull up that slide. And I'd like to ask Fire Marshal De Los Santos to please come up, and we can lay this groundwork. And obviously we have a number of elected officials here today. And if it pleases the chair, I mean, I believe some of them would like to speak.
Oh, yes. And if we could pause a moment. Are we getting audio on the stream? We're good?
Yeah.
Everybody good?
Yeah, we're good.
We're good? Okay, good. All right, let's continue. Thank you.
Perfect. So in terms of just some bullet points to help guide the discussion, while that's being pulled up, and I'll just state them. From a background perspective, the Fire Marshal's Office has operated under various security assessment findings. Robert, if you want to talk about that.
Yes, good morning. Again, since we been designated to do assessments on government centers from administration and elected court administration, here is we did an assessment on all the government centers. One of the things we did is look at, we have public places, and then we have courtroom security, and how are we going to be able to enhance the security of these operations there. So we've been tasked to look at it. So when we did that, we were looking at it, public places are going to be open, tax office, Veterans Affairs and all that, and then we're segregating the areas for courtroom security. We've been asked to look at it. We've also looked at, bringing in screening operations. We've already started this in one of our government centers in Grand Prairie. We started the government screening operations up there on the second floor. After that, we looked at it. Everything's running pretty smooth at this point. We're going to be going to South Dallas Government Center to do that as well. And we also looked at some of the things, they also, OCA also came out and did a report on the government centers, and they were also asking for enhancement of security measures. And I think that's what we're doing at this point, getting that enhancement. So we're putting in screeners in there with metal detectors, so when they're going up into the JP areas, they're being screened for that.
Robert, can you give, just from a historical perspective, like even 5 years ago, the level of security versus the initiatives taking place right now?
One of the things about 5 years ago, we looked at it, there wasn't any type of security in all these government centers, not even in some of our other big buildings like Records Building, HHS, and other buildings like that. I was tasked to look at it from administration, how are we going to be able to enhance that security measures, and that's what we've been doing from here, from then on. So that's where we come up with this plan, so we can enhance that security measures, especially in the courts and in the JP areas.
Mr. Chairman, let me make sure to think, first of all, and I apologize. She just bought my book. Sure. Having been present in the January 13th meeting.
Thank you.
That's okay. It's all right. Having been present in January 13th meeting, I move the approval of those minutes.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Sorry, just getting the record.
And it's approved. Thank you for doing it. Appreciate your time. All right, good. All right. So, Chief, if you could please give us a timeline, if you would, when you think you'll have magnetometers and screeners in all of the JP courts.
We're trying to hopefully have it within at least by June of this year. The screeners and the X-ray machines. I mean, the metal detectors and all the JP's areas.
All right, very good. Now let me set the table for the next area of discussion, if we could, please. Do you provide any bailiffing services in any of the JP courts currently?
No.
Okay. I know that there's been a point of inquiry that has been made, at least to the chair, by a number of individuals about your ability to be able to do it and whether we could legally do it. I know that there is a question in the law associated with it as well. Would you be able to accomplish that task if you were asked to do so?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, the question in my mind is still legally, can we do it? And second, should we do it? I think I would want to hear both from the JPs and the constables along those lines in association with those issues, and I would invite that discussion.
Well, Mr. Chair, with all due respect, unless y'all got a different briefing than I got.
There you go.
Okay, it's really a non-issue.
Right, because you think legally can't be done.
We can't do it legally.
Okay.
I mean,
Legally, we cannot do what?
We cannot substitute the fire marshal in for the constable. There is other remedies that are available to us under the law. There could be a memorandum of understanding between governmental entities that might be able to accomplish that task legally. And then there's, do we need additional bailiffs in there, which I don't think we do. But I would like to hear from the JPs and the constables on this issue with your permission.
I agree with that, but also, and that's a little unusual of a request, but this is going to help me to understand. And I realize that there may be a third way,
yeah.
but if you're a JP, could you just quickly raise your hand? One, two, three JPs here. Okay, and again, we're going to hear you speak, but just to make it simple for me, how many JPs want constable, bailiffs, and security? Okay. How many JPs want marshal, bailiffs, and security?
I can appreciate. Well, yeah, but Judge. Yeah, but Judge.
Y'all want something? I know, but I was okay. It may be hard to get everybody something different, but
we all have different concerns.
All right, well, let's hear them.
I appreciate all.
That's okay. So it's a little too nuanced to raise your hand, deal.
Yeah.
That's fine too. Can I ask one question before we get to all that? How many constables don't want to be bailiffs and do security? Any constables that don't want to do that? Okay. So I'm taking it that all the constables here want to do that. But go ahead. Let's hear from everybody.
Yeah,
That's
that's all is well and good. But again, this court has been briefed with regards to the statutory position of the constables. Period. I don't care what anybody else wants. Unless they want to just say, hey, I don't want to be in office anymore, or take that chance. But other than that, that's it. I don't know what we're talking about.
I want to hear from the JPs on this issue. They have raised the concern. I think that we need to hear them out. I think it's fair that we hear them out. There are solutions that can be offered potentially, but I want to hear what the concern is first. Just Moreno, just Short, somebody, anybody.
That's fine.
All right.
That's fine.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
They can.
okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Judge Whitfield from Precinct 2, Place 2 in Mesquite.
Good to see you.
Morning. Good to see you.
As I stated before, each JP has their own concerns for their own court. I've never had a problem with having a bailiff. I have a dedicated bailiff. So that's not my concern. My concern is overall security for the building, not just my courtroom and not just when I'm in the courtroom. So I would rather not go into detail in a public forum as to where we
Fair.
So, but there are other judges who've reached out and had some of the same concerns, and we do have judges who have trouble having a bailiff or finding a bailiff for court, meaning they don't have a dedicated bailiff. But those are some things that they can discuss with you individually. I just think overall, every judge, we just want to make sure that we are not sitting in a vulnerable position.
But Judge, my concern is, first of all, I want to separate it. You know, we just got Marshall De Los Santos just stood up. This court has basically tasked them with security of all of courthouse facilities, I think, except for Frank Crowley. And yeah, so that's has been taken care of. They're in the process of training and taking people through that. You know, with this whole thing of dedicated security, I just can't even imagine. And of course, I guess all the constables are here that they're not dedicated to what statutorily there's two duties. Tell people what their duties are, but there are two duties in statute for the constable:
I think another
serve process, bailiff the courts.
Well,
and that's statutory.
Well, I understand that. However, some courts are not having bailiffs there. So, I mean, that's a discussion you can have with the constables if you need to remind them of what their duties are. Like I said, I have a dedicated bailiff, so that's not my concern. But it could be discussed when they come up.
Your dedicated bailiff's a constable.
Yes.
Sure.
And you're happy
with that, but not about some other issues that should not be discussed in public. How would you like us to hear you on those issues? Would you like to go through the fire marshal, or perhaps I think the best way to do that is to have Mr. Bazan visit with you privately about the security concerns, and then Mr. Bazan can report to us. Will that satisfy making sure you're heard?
Absolutely. So that was the biggest issue with the JPs, is that we were never included in the conversation.
I agree.
Security.
And Mr. Chair, I would recommend that in that small committee that Mr. Bazan and Ms. Richardson will chair, that everybody's at the table.
Good.
The constables, the JPs, and obviously the fire marshal.
Good.
Because as you say at the beginning, and like Commissioner Price just mentioned, there's statutory requirements. But if we have elected officials that do not feel safe at some point of level, I think this is a discussion that we all have to have. They all have to have together and come to a conclusion, because we hear from the fire marshal, we hear from the JPs, we hear from the constables, but I really understand that there has not been a discussion when all of them are together at the same time in the same room. Right. So I think that will be a good way to move forward, rather than to have it in a public setting like this when there's safety issues and legal issues that should not be discussed.
Security should be closed session.
Yeah,
so if we want to put them all in the closed session, that's all well and good.
And that's for us, but for the elected officials, the JPs that are here, like the Judge Whitley just said, there's some considerations of concerns if she just speaks freely right now.
So then there will be a meeting of the constables, JPs, and the fire marshal before, and then report back to the commissioner's court in closed session.
Yes.
Yes, that will be it,
with
Commissioner.
Mr. Bazan, Ms. Richardson involved in that.
Perfect. We'll do.
Does that address your concerns if we do that?
Absolutely.
Good. Now let me hear. Do you have anything else? May I hear from Justice Schwartz, please, because I just saw his face.
Yes.
Judge Moreno are here. Constable Orozco and Gulli are also here. Did I miss anyone? I saw.
And I'd also, yes, obviously, I'd like to hear from Justice Moreno.
Good morning. I'm Justice Adam Schwartz. My concern on this really is I just want things to be consistent, right? The JPs and the citizens that are in court, I think, deserve consistent and adequate security regardless of who provides it. And I think the problem is we don't have any kind of metric to measure it, right? Nothing's in place for that. We don't have an org chart as far as, like, who do we complain to? If there's a dispute on something, who settles that?
What kind of dispute?
Between you and the constable over the security issue?
Yeah, for example, one thing that had come up about a year ago was when we first got the magnetometers, the metal detectors, there was a discussion about whether or not the constables would be able to do a search. They were worried about it being a Fourth Amendment violation to search somebody. When
And that's the
it went
reason.
on.
And that's the reason this court did basically turn it over to the marshals. We recognize that. They're
I
all right.
understand. I'm saying that there was no like process in place for that. I'm plucking it as an example. So if something else comes down the pipeline, is it another like few months until we can figure that out, or
It's called the marshal service.
Isn't the whole thing that there's a dispute between the marshals and the constables?
That is one of the questions that is before us. But what you're asking for is process, as I understand it, Justice Schwartz. Is that right?
Process and metrics.
Right. And you're saying we need process, not just an answer to that one question, but rather a process that could be handled not only for that question, but any question that comes before us. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's a good summation.
All right, good. And I think that Mr. Bazan should be in charge of that process myself. I don't know how my colleagues feel about that, but I think that he can.
That's the way we've handed it off to them.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Plus the marshal would be
Right.
included.
So just for clarification, in terms of process, you're talking about who has oversight of a particular area? Because clearly the constables have the courtroom, and then the buildings and exterior is oversight.
Yeah,
of
that was not the
marshals.
process we were talking about, though. It goes like this, and I'm using this just as a hypothetical, but just as Schwartz has a problem with X, Y, Z, who does he turn that over to? In the past, he's called me, okay? And, it's been just fine. I got no complaints, no problems. But actually, it's probably more appropriate that it goes to you.
Understand.
And that you, in turn, take it to the constable if it needs to be taken to the constable, to the chief it needs to be taken to the chief, or to the court if it needs to be the court.
Understand completely. Thank you.
He should talk to his constable. I couldn't agree more. I agree. The whole process should be communication, obviously. And so I think that the way that would handle is if he's not getting satisfaction from the conversation he has with his constable, and his constable's terrific, by the way, so I don't think there's any problems there, then he can go to Mr. Bazan. I was just using it as a hypothetical. I wasn't saying there was a problem there. Are we all clear? Yeah. Okay, good. All right, good. Anything else, Justice Schwartz?
No, sir.
All right, good. Justice Moreno, would you like to add?
Hello, good morning. I don't have too much to add. I guess that was one of my questions is, I have worked with my constable. It's just in terms of staffing, I think that's been an issue, which is why I can't have a consistent bailiff all the time. So we now have someone who's manning the court all the time, but it's changing. And so again, that would be a staffing concern. That should be more so not just with the constable, but you're saying now with Mr. Bazan's office, or is that something that we need to bring up?
Well, I think that what this committee is suggesting to the chair is that the constables and the JPs get together with the staff, no court members included. So you all can, get a process that will streamline metrics and a process that will solve some of the questions that, we've seen arise from the JPs, from the constables, and from the fire marshal. So we can have a process for it. And then bring some of the solutions to executive session. I would recommend Mr. Bazan and Ms. Richardson, in case that you're involved also, that Dr. Watkins is involved in these conversations as well, because I have heard everything under the sun, from no response to some response, and some people that are really unhappy with the whole process. So I would recommend that it's a committee that can solve an issue and bring it forward.
Yeah, I appreciate all of that. Look, you're a lawyer, and my concern is I don't want constables over there telling me how to build a damn road. I'm not going to tell them how. That's them and their constituents. They got two duties in statute. Two, bailiff the court and serve process, period. What this court has done is said there are common areas that apparently you, constituents, others have complained about. Insert the marshal service, funded them, etc. But there's got to be a collaboration between you and your constable as far as that court area. I mean, I hear, I hear this, but at the same time, they serve process and they bailiff the court. If it's two constables, then the elected official got to bailiff the court or decide if they're going to do process. But I think budget, has appropriately based on standard. I know you're going through a staffing standards now, and they're doing that whole review. And at the end of the day, that's about equity. But in terms of their duties, that's it. That's all the statute says. It does not say they get K-9s. Does not say they run traffic reports. And, it doesn't say any of that. It says bailiff the court and serve process, period.
Correct, and I don't disagree. Again, the issue I think is just unfortunately understaffed right now at our precinct, which is
Who's
why
understaffed?
we have, I believe, 2 constables. The bailiff that I had before has been out on medical leave, and then I believe there's just some staffing that we've talked about and discussed, and so we have worked together to get someone there consistent. Well, to have someone there consistently, but to have one person there consistently where it's changing all the time, I think is also another concern because they don't know the process or the procedures.
Well, that makes everything she's saying makes sense.
Well, it makes sense, but this is the same. This is not too different and dissimilar than what we were hearing across the highway with regards to my bailiff. That's concierge. If the constables, if they decide that they're going to put you in one day and me the next day, then that's up to, they have to bailiff the court. Over there, we have the same issue in the sheriff's department. That's my bailiff. You got whoever the sheriff assigns. It's the same way with the constable. We don't get a chance. I just got through saying, I don't want them out there telling me how to grade no road, and I'm not going to tell them who they put in there. They don't know who shows up for work, who's out on family. That's on them.
Just Moreno, you're not concerned about who's the bailiff, just that you have one, true?
Correct.
No.
Some consistency
See,
too, though, because
that's
the
different.
jury trial, like for instance, I have a certain process with the jury trial or bench trials, so it's having to teach a new constable or deputy, this is the process of how I like it. So then there is that learning curve if there's always someone new.
Right. You don't care who it is so long as they know the process.
Yes, and maybe that is something just with my constable that we can work together on putting something on paper.
Yeah.
But I think that has been some part of the difficulty as well, is just not having that consistent. But that's more, I think, due to staffing issues, which is why I bring that up.
Right, and I think being heard is very important. And so hopefully this meeting that we're going to have with all the constables, all the JPs, Mr. Bazan, Mr. Richardson, Dr. Watkins, and maybe staff from the Commissioner's Court, but no commissioner there, I think would be the way to handle that. Are you okay with that?
Yes, that's fine.
All right, good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, good.
Thank you, Judge.
Constables, anybody here? Good, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Gully, a constable for Precinct 1. My JPs are not here simply because I can speak on their behalf. I have that trust, and they trust in me. I've been working with these JPs. Well, actually, I've been there for 28 years. We have never had a problem with bailiff in the court. Those are our duties. The statute says that no one can do it other than a sheriff or a constable. We know our duties, and it's pretty much like you're trying to police the police. We know our job. As far as the JPs saying that they don't have, the constables and I have had meetings, and let's just say this, respectfully so, this meeting should have come before now, and we wouldn't have this problem. Everyone would be on the same page as far as the statute is concerned. When we talk about what JPs want and what they're not getting from their constables, that's when they should have a meeting with their constables. It shouldn't be to where we're in this courtroom trying to decide, or they're having an issue with their constables because they're not fully staffed or because they're not there on time. That's something very simple that we should not take up your time dealing with something of that nature. Each constable goes through a bailiff training, so they know how to operate in a courtroom. This JP may want something for this constable to stand on this side or that side. That's very simple. But every constable has been trained. Everyone knows what it is to be a bailiff and how to conduct themselves as a bailiff when they're in the courtroom. Now, as far as Precinct 1, we have a bailiff is designated for that courtroom every single day. And if that bailiff is out, trust me, everyone I carry commission on can go to their courtroom and everyone does. It may be a day that bailiff is out sick or something happens or vacation. Any and every one of my deputies are qualified to stand in that courtroom, and they do. So I can't speak for any other precinct. Precinct 1 does not have a problem and will never have a problem. Now, when we want to talk about safety concerns, as you say, that's another meeting behind closed doors, whatever we need to have, and that will be fine.
Same meeting.
Security, yeah, that's way overdue with that. But as far as bailiffing, we shouldn't even be here with this.
Well,
Constable, thank you.
yeah, and Constable, I appreciate that. You know, one of the things we've heard from JPs is that, you know, that there has been a failure to have someone there on time, number one, so they can get their dockets done and move forward. I'm not saying that's your issue. I'm just saying that has been the concern. I understand that. Only reason I keep reminding that is the responsibility of the constable. If they don't do nothing, and I don't know, the statute doesn't talk about which is for the bailiff and all the process. They just give them 2 duties, okay? And that means that if all of your constables, Constable Gully doesn't show up, that means you got to go up there and bail it. And I know you do. I'm making that clear. But they want to be, you know, somebody's got to post up when the court opens. Period.
Any other comments? Thank you.
Any comments?
Well, no, Constable Hammond.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The
And I
Second
saw
Commission-
also Constable Orozco over there.
Yeah.
Good morning. I am Constable Hammond, Precinct 2. I second everything that Constable Gully has spoke on. She's kind of our spokesperson when we have the meetings. This was brand new to us, too. We were surprised at what was going on as well, and that is why we had a meeting. And we probably had a meeting about a week before the judges did. So we just remember as constables coming together about the fall of last year asking for particular items for our courts. And we were asking for, one of our positions to be, turned into a 66 instead of a 65. We asked for tasers. So we were asking for things collaboratively. And that's when we heard back from the courts of, well, possibly, let's see about the marshals, bailiffing, the courts and all that. So what I did when we got a report is I sent that to both my judges, one being Judge Katina Whitfield that you guys just heard from, and the other being Margaret O'Brien. So I keep them up to speed. We never heard anything else about it till all of a sudden, oh yeah, this is a done deal, and that's when we had a meeting. So yes, that is our job. As Constable Gully has spoken, as Commissioner Price has spoken, those are our 2 duties for the statute, and we do that. If my bailiffs are not in the court, my judges both can tell you I will bailiff the court, and I have often been in the courts, bailiffing the courts and filling in for my bailiffs, and that's our duties.
Thank you,
Thank you
Constable.
very much.
Appreciate you. Constable Orozco, did you want to say anything? Thank you.
He wants K9s.
And Constable Curry, you want to say anything? Okay, good.
I'll make mine pretty quick. First of all, I wanted to go ahead and address something about the idea of the memorandum of understanding.
Yeah.
So back when this started all occurring back in November, we started hearing about it. I made a phone call to the Texas Justice Court Training Center, which is it's an avenue for us for the JPs and constables to also seek legal advice. So I told them about what was going on here and the situation, what they thought. They said, well, the solution could be maybe you could possibly do a memorandum of understanding. So nextly, I reached out to our civil ADA, Todd Sellers. Todd Sellers, said we cannot enter in a memorandum of understanding because we could technically, in his opinion, could be removed from office for entering into some type of agreement by not performing our statutory duties. Nextly, in regards to the court billing assessments, back in the summer of 2022, I reached out to the state of Texas, the Office of Court Administration, and they provide a free service. They go out and they assess any and all county buildings for security assessments. So they actually came out and performed and went to all the satellite offices in October 2022. The report was made and given to us in 2023. So they identified all the issues and the areas in screening, where to place more cameras, how to fix certain deficiencies in the parking garage. And they went through over and over. So those items haven't been identified since March of 2023. So, just like my colleague said, I for one am on favor of this as well.
They've been doing that with all of our bills. That's not new. That's what they do. OCA, they've done that. So we have responded to it. That's the reason we've given it to the marshal's office. Okay. Period.
Okay.
Thank you. Constable Curry, always good to see you.
Good morning, all. I'm Henry Curry, Dallas County Constable Precinct 3. And all I want to state is, as Commissioner Price stated, as constables, we only have 2 statutory duties: serve civil process and bailiff the justice court of our said precinct. And after meeting with all my colleagues, no one is trying to not do that or not provide those services. What we need is extra staffing, because you have to take into consideration, my office in particular, not including myself, I have 14 sworn personnel with 2 administrative staff. That leaves me with 12 deputies, 2 of which are bailiffs. That gives me 10 deputies to cover 96 square miles. With 10 deputies covering 96 square miles, at any given time, I could have someone out on sick leave, on vacation, on training. We're required to do training. So anyone can be out for an extended period of time at any given time. So my office is typically operating between 6 to 8 deputies per day in the field covering 96 square miles. That's why we need extra staffing. We don't have any kind of relief factors built in to cover us, to assist us when deputies are out on training or just out on any type of extended leave. So we're not trying to negate any of our statutory duties. We're here to do that. We just need the staffing. As you all are willing to fund the marshals to do it, fund us. We'll do anything that you need us to do. We're here to do our duties and perform them at a high level. So just give us the staffing to do it.
Can I ask a quick question here? It sounds like that there are a variety of meetings among all of you to discuss different parts of your responsibilities, both to the courts and then to your other duties. Is that something then to put together a proposal if you need more staff?
Yes, currently we have UTA doing our staffing. They're doing the staffing assessment right now.
You guys approved if we had the staffing as part of the budget, and you're working with the
25, 26.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, if we had the staffing, we can accommodate and do anything that the JPs need, provide any extra security as needed. But we need the staffing to do it due to current staffing.
Well, it sounds like that's already in process.
We can't accommodate any extra duties at this time, and that's all it is.
But the problem, Constable, and all due respect, like you said, if you just stay with those duties, that's the reason this court has authorized budget to do the study. Because everybody, if you let them tell it, they need, more than they have. The study, when they finish, it'll tell us. It'll tell us. And one of the things this court has always tried to do is do a staffing standard so that all the equity. You got 96 square miles. Dallas County is 955 square miles. Yes, so I do a division between you and 5 into 955 square miles. Each one of you, got 170, square miles. So, hey, what? See, we hear you. I tell my colleagues, hell, I got 70% of the county. 16%, they ain't giving me no more. We got an equation on the mileage. Okay?
With all due respect, Commissioner, on that same note, my office is number 2, number-wise, production-wise. We get the second most process in. Yet I'm number 4 in staffing. And that's something I've been speaking on and addressing since I've been in office. I'm up at number 2. I'm right behind Precinct 1 production-wise, but in staffing, I'm number 4 on the list. I'm number 2 production-wise, number 4 in staffing. So my hands are just kind of tied. And I'm not trying to negate or not do any of my statutory duties.
We'll make sure that you guys get the calendar because they've already started the process, right?
Yes.
We've already, UTA already visited all.
And they've all been very.
And I just want to point out 3 little bullets that I want to just state in reference to that staffing concern that's going on right now. Is 3 things that are not taken into concern for the duties that we do. Number 1 is the time aspect. In 2001, Dallas County reduced down from 8 precincts to 5, so we all have a lot of ground to cover. So number 1 is number time. And I don't think people take into consideration how long it takes to get from A to B to make these different stops that we make to serve this process. Number 2 is a staffing issue. And what I mean by that is we don't have any built-in extra staffing to cover. We just have the staffing because Dallas County based everything on numbers, but we don't have any overflow staffing or relief staffing to cover when a deputy is in training or when a deputy is out on extended leave. And number 3 is they look at these numbers. So we're justified as having 250 processed per deputy, but no one takes in consideration the amount of attempts that are done and going out on these processes. We got 250 processed. We're doing a minimum of 3 to 4 attempts on each one of these processes. So nothing is taken into consideration for that. And those are just 3 points that are major concern in our staffing and what we need.
But you all are having to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm just saying it's not taken into consideration because there's a lot of time involved in all of that.
No, I get it. And that's what that's when she brought the study to the court. That's what we're hoping the study will reveal.
Yes, sir.
But we want to see equity in this staffing, and I appreciate the fact that you're, number 2 in terms of production process. You say number 4 in terms of staffing. No, we will see. I'm not going to say anything about what you inherited. So anyway, so you inherited what you inherited, and you go from there. Okay?
That's it. Thank you all so much for your time.
Good to see you, Constable. Thank you. Any other constables?
All of you.
Y'all, thank you for being here, really. Communication's everything, and I think it's very important.
Hang on, Eddie, did you want to say anything?
No. Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Thank you, Constable.
All right, good. All right. Thank y'all. We're moving on to the next topic if we can, unless anybody has otherwise. Very good.
Thank you all for being here. I mean, I think this is a great opportunity to, have a good discussion about the needs. Thank you.
Yeah, this next one, Mr. Chairman, is countywide overtime and compensatory time.
Good. Let's hear from
Budget.
Yeah,
and before that, Mr. Chairman, I spent some time yesterday walking the floors over in the jail, making rounds, and it's interesting when I look at this overtime piece. It doesn't. Now the constable just got through talking about their need for more people. We have some issues with regards to what is really overtime versus compensatory time in that facility. And I said that to Dr. Watkins. Before Chief Herclocks left, he did a study of not the 1 to 48, but on every floor in that jail. In suicide, they don't get a chance. Not only do they have, I'm calling the RFR finders, that they have to time out. They have to go to every cell and wake the individual in the cell up, make sure they're moving, put eyes on them, and then time in. It takes, just in the West Tower alone, it takes them 11, almost 12 minutes to make the rounds. They get a chance to sit down for 10 minutes. They're back up because they're having to make 15-minute rounds, which means they're having to do it on a 13-minute time so they'll be on time. Keep in mind, the jail commission gets a chance to access these timers, and they have to do 15-minute rounds in every mental behavioral pod in that West Tower. And I'm most concerned about the West Tower primarily because those individuals, and I do want to put this on the record, Dr. Watkins, they say they do not make them work mandatory back-to-back on the floor. They said once they do it, if they have to do mandatory, they take them and put them, they get a chance to choose where they go after that, not being on the floor. And I said that, Mr. Chairman, because when I went through all of these overtime and these updates and all, I told Dr. Watkins, just like the constable's complaint, that this needs some real adjustment.
Okay. So I sent you guys all the presentation that Commissioner Summerlin asked me to put together yesterday afternoon. So I sent it to this morning, and it's the slide that's up on the presentation, and you should have it in your email too.
We do.
Okay.
We do.
Oh, I thought you wanted to ask a question, Dr. Daniel. Okay, so just starting off, the overtime for 25, we went through a exercise as part of the budget process, making sure that we did allocate, appropriate $22.8 million as part of FY25's countywide overtime budget. And so you'll see from 23 to 24 the difference as far as appropriated budget. And that was based on a discussion throughout the mid-year to the end of year to make sure that the FY25 budget did have a nice size of overtime budget, which was $22.8 million. Okay, so what I've been sending you guys since, because you guys asked for this as part of moving forward, and I try to send it to you after the payroll has been posted for that particular month. So I've been trying to send it to you monthly, the updated payroll for actuals in a comparison for the previous year. So what you see there is 23, 24, and 25. 23 and 24 is the actual end of year versus 25 is year to date through January. Keep in mind that's only through January 2nd payroll. It does not include the 31st. It has not been posted as of yesterday when we checked. So based on the end of year projection, we would be at 24.18 million if we stayed at the status quo. If we stayed at the same level at this point and nothing changed, this is the projection. But keep in mind, this year, one of the things that was included in the budget was elections. We had a presidential elections, and $2.7 million of that is elections overtime. So when you pull that out of it, it'll be a little less. And then I do know that they have a May and June. You might say, well, want to go higher, but it's a different type of election. So there's not going to be that high number of overtime for those two, May and June.
So let me talk about your assumptions. Assuming that everything remains the same, do you see any variations, potentials in the future?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You want me to go to the last slide?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Okay, so those are some potential opportunities to assist with overtime, and I might need Mr. Lewis and Mr. Wilson to help with this. We have telestaff implementation, which we've talked about previously. Chrono updates. I know training is currently underway with departments countywide. I think what we're learning is, based on our meeting on Friday with some association members, that I think we still need to figure out punch versus actual punch and miss punch, because I'm not saying get permission from them, but just some of that conversation is just understanding we need the data to see who's all punching and who's not punching.
Well, the difference is, and Mr. Lewis, you can come, the difference is, yesterday, Mr. Chairman, we talked about, first of all, there's 22 timekeepers. That's where the issue is coming up.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to put it on the record because we were just now able to extract that. We got 22 timekeepers in that facility over there, and they're not charging the time appropriately.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
That's what we learned through some discussion. That is the costing and the coding. So say, for instance, if I'm stationed in North Tower, but then I do overtime in a different tower, I'm being charged to North Tower and not the other tower. So it's a coding issue within the sheriff. We're hoping, I asked payroll, well, how can we correct it? And what was the response?
This is Lester Lewis, Director of the ERP Transformation Office. So we have a couple of options, and we're going to look at. So there's things we can do with the clocks. So you could take the clocks, and you could group the clock, assign it to let's say to the North Tower, so that every time you swipe there, then that would be charged that way. Because what happens is everyone has a default charging. That's what Dr. Watkins is referring to. So your default charge always happens. But if you go somewhere else and you swipe, then if that isn't coded, then you're charged for your default. So you're not being costed in the right place for the overtime. So that's part of the problem. So we're going to look at a couple options to see if we can help address that.
What are those options?
the assignment of the physical clock. So the clocks aren't assigned. There's just a group of clocks, and you can log in those. But we could take the clocks. But we need to work with the sheriff's office to see if that's going to cause them any trouble in their operation. So we can't just blanket say that'll work without affecting their operation. But that is at least an option.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay.
Great job.
And then the other was making sure the coding is correct. Like if I know you're going to a different location, the timekeepers, going back to the timekeepers, and I don't know if Mr. Wilson want to speak to that.
Apparently not.
No, I was just thinking through what Mr. Lewis said. So Bob Wilson, HR director. So coding is important ultimately where the charges go. But I would, if I kind of zoom out right from just in aggregate, what do we spend at the sheriff's department? The way that I can begin to actually manage that, right, where people work, and to eliminate the number of edits that supervisors are having to do is to get every employee to punch in and out for every shift, right? There's certainty that I'm getting paid what I earned, and then there's certainty, and this is perfect world, right? If every employee punched in and out, we didn't have to edit, that data rolls right from the time clock into Kronos and gets processed. When employees don't punch, we start to get behind the power curve on getting correct time in the system through edits. That builds. And what happens is when that builds, it puts payroll under pressure to execute, right? So we've just moved the problem from the accountability is in the sheriff's department to ensure that every person punches. What we've done is we've moved it to payroll, and so payroll is delaying when they can execute in an attempt to be good team players and get the hours in. It just creates, it's fraught for peril for creating mistakes and errors. And so if I had one ask today, it would be that every employee punches in and punches out.
But that's what that's again, we had to first of all extract and note, Mr. Chairman, that the timekeepers, to know the timekeeper's responsibility is 22 of them. They don't have 20.
So, Commissioner, I would argue it's the supervisor's responsibility to make sure that these employees punch. And so from a loss prevention aspect, it's also a very good practice that each person punch in and out. And so that's just what I would add.
Well,
I apologize.
How many managers did we see? Was it 100 and something managers? See, that's my problem there. That's what you calling them supervisors. They're calling them managers, 124. But it's 22 people that are responsible for that time. That's what we're trying to drill.
So that's what we've created by employees not punching. Is again, we've put this on this group. It's the 22 timekeepers. No, it's we need to punch, right? So the 22 timekeepers aren't overwhelmed trying to clean this up.
You're right. You said something that makes a lot of sense. It is those 22 timekeepers' job to get this right, but the people who need to push the punch are the bosses, because
124 of them though, and that's what they're basically saying.
But I'm gonna listen to I may not listen to the person who reconciles the clock, but I will listen to my boss.
All your boss is doing, Judge, if you've ever been around, and I invite all of you, spend some time with it. All your boss is doing said, report to North Tower, report to West Tower.
Report to West Tower and punch in. I mean, right?
But you don't get that. It's not that simple.
So it is change in mindset, right? There are administrative tasks that each managers are responsible for, and I would argue that's our challenge, right? How do we instill that administrator management philosophy? So I agree that it's difficult at the moment. So how do we not make that difficult? And that's part of, as an employee, you are responsible for doing this. And so, we're looking forward to a future, not too distant future, where we can report on that, right? We can go through the entire thing, employee A to Z, and draw a line and go, hey, these employees are punching consistently, great job. These employees have never punched. We need to do something about these employees. We can do the same thing with managers and group it. This manager has no employees that punch. This manager has some. So it doesn't mean
it doesn't say that anyone is doing anything wrong. There may be something underlying, to your point, Commissioner, that drives that.
I get it.
Assignments.
I get it. And that's my time. What will telestaff do, Mr. Lewis, to help us manage this position?
No, it will help with the scheduling, and what it'll also do is give reports. So basically, as I think Bob and Dr. Watkins have alluded to, it'll help ease the administrative burden on the sheriff's office. So you will know who is scheduled, but you'll also know immediately after that who is working, who punched, who didn't punch, the actual. So then that way you can sort of manage that, because the problem is it's a heavy administrative burden, which is why it's a delay, because you're entering those punches post work, and it should happen daily. So you're trying to catch up at the end of the week to make payroll.
And where
Can
are
it
we?
happen daily?
Yes, yeah. Especially if there are more punches than edits. So again, I was talking about the clock. So we can work to do things to make the job easier. The rules that this will be based on the sheriff's operation, because they have to drive their own operation. But this should at least alleviate the administrative burden that it takes to get the time in.
Exactly. Where are we on, Mr. Chairman? Where are we on telestaff?
Telestaff and the updated version of Kronos both go live in April. I think April 19th is the exact date.
Okay. So we're looking 60 out.
Yeah.
All right. I'm moving on to the next topic unless my colleagues want otherwise. Dr. Watkins, thank you.
Well, I just want to ask that we continue to look into this. I think that as every process, we need to be sure that everybody follows the same rules. Otherwise, we're not going to see the savings and the organization that we want. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Always being mindful of other elected officials' time, I'm going to take Odyssey next, if that's all right, and then come back to IT with y'all's permission. All right, very good.
Mr. Chairman, I move, since there is a quorum, that a motion to suspend. No.
Thank you. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Let's take Odyssey if we can, please. Ms. Petrie, you want to, let's proceed on. Good.
So do you have a presentation slide deck? We can certainly go through the agenda. But
introduce yourself, Mr. Ballard.
I'm sorry, Richard Ballard, IT Services. Okay. As part of the agenda, obviously we have laid out how do we get here, current challenges, path forward, high-level action plan, and then duties, roles, responsibilities, resource plan, and then open it up for open discussion and feedback. Pending the committee's interest, I would like to just get straight into the schedule and talk about the resource plan, also talk about how we're going to ensure visibility as to the tracking progress, as well as accountability in relation to the tasks that will need to be completed. So if it's okay with the committee, I'd like to go ahead and just jump straight to slide number 7, which is the high-level action plan, to kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, I don't have that.
It should be. You say you don't have it? It should be in your high-level action plan.
I've got 6.
7. You don't have 7?
I don't have 7.
Okay.
And I can share my copy with the commissioner. Oh, there's a second page, Mr. Pisano.
Yes,
sorry.
2 of them. 7 in there.
And it has some notes on it, so please forgive the notes. So, high-level action plan, here's the intent. We wanted to lay out an end-to-end plan of all of the steps that need to be taken leading to OCA reporting from beginning to the end. Starts with the OCA issues identification. That's by the district clerk's office. So we have a schedule there, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. But we have the schedule on the right-hand side. That will then lead to the data assessment solutions review. In other words, what things need to be fixed, what does that look like, the approach, which will then lead to development as to solutioning, and then approval and sign-off. Obviously, validation becomes before that, which then means that, hey, is this working as expected? And if it is, we'll get sign-off. And then next slide deck. Yes, sir.
In slides, Mr. Chairman, all boots on the ground. In other words, is everything on the ground? We You've seen these plans.
Yes, sir. We have a resource plan. One of the items, and Tyler's here, should be able to talk to this, is from a resourcing perspective, we've requested access to additional resource in the district clerk's office. We've identified all the resources from IT services perspective. We know what's needed from a Tyler perspective, but what Tyler has communicated back to us is that the schedule that we have as to, hey, we're looking to meet from 1 to 5, Monday through Friday, in a room physically to have all parties there. They have some concerns as to making the resources available via the schedule that we have provided.
Time out, Mr. Chairman. Where's Tyler?
Yeah, where is Tyler? Yeah, I got some questions about that.
Yeah, and you are?
My name's Jared Anderson. I'm a client executive with Tyler.
Okay, so who is the I'm sorry.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Who's the dedicated resource of Tyler for this project? Who's the dedicated?
So dedicated, we have a client success account manager, and he's identified in the plan.
Who is that person by name?
Zach Andre.
Okay, and he is dedicated to this process. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so why can't he make the meeting?
He can.
All right.
There's a whole team of people that you've identified in this plan. Some of them are solution architects in the sense of they're a DBA, for example, and they work they're resource constrained. Let's just put it that way. They work on other accounts. To have them dedicated in a room specifically for 20 hours a week is not feasible for Tyler. But what we have said and what we'll continue to do is provide those resources. We've been doing it. We'll bring them to bear as needed. But for this project specifically, what we're looking at here is we need requirements so that we can then assign it to the DBA to then build. So they are not necessarily needed in that room for the 20 hours to solve that problem.
Wasn't that part of the contract, though?
To be there?
To provide that support?
What I'm suggesting is we are providing the support. We have daily people that are assigned to this project, but it's basically like if you need a carpenter, you go pull the carpenter in and say, okay, let's build this. The folks that are running the day-to-day are the ones that are pulling those people in to bring the resources to bear. We've been doing that, and we continue to do that.
But you're also saying that you can't meet the schedule.
We have not said we're not going to meet the schedule. What we've said is we cannot dedicate a person that is at a DBA level for 20 hours a week for the next 4 months.
So what you are saying is that you need everybody in one room so you can brief them all, tell them all together what they need to do. That you can do.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
We will have folks available.
And Mr. Ballard, the challenge of putting all the people in one room is big.
Well, IT services are facilitating that already. But it's not necessarily the issue with the DBA. The concern is with the Tyler implementation specialist, which is Mr. Soto.
That's different. Yeah, go ahead.
That has unique knowledge that the DBA would not have, that we're going to be heavily relying upon.
And I think that's what we're saying. Mr. Soto.
Yes, sir.
What about Mr. Soto?
That's a difficult request to have him dedicated in a room for 20 hours a week for the next 4 months. He will be available as needed.
Yeah, that's what we need, though.
What I can tell you is we will make the resources available as needed.
But
that's
the resource that's needed.
Yeah, and
so there's business processes, things that need to be identified. It's for example, we need to make sure that we have the roadmap correct in the sense of we need to know exactly. The data owners have to provide that specific data set, and we don't own that data. That comes from a third-party solution. That's AIS. So when that identified...
Yeah, Mr. Ballard.
We're going to have AIS resource from an IT services perspective. We'll have with Nelson, which is the AIS resource. We'll have her available. I mean, we're going to have from an IT services perspective all of the applications that are native, non-Odyssey, even though we're going to have an Odyssey resource there. They're all going to be there. So there isn't we need to reach out to...
But we're going to have everything that Tyler needs in that room. We're going to have
Yes.
it. Okay. Now.
But what we need is Soto in the room.
Let's say Soto's sick that day. We will make sure that another implementation consultant is available for that meeting.
Yeah, well, we don't need Soto to be sick too much.
There might need to be a note from the doctor. Come on.
So
Yeah, I hear you.
You understand, we're resource constrained when it comes to certain people, and assigning them out for 4 months in this scenario is very difficult to do.
Yeah, but the contract has been set up. Dallas County has particular needs within a particular time frame.
Yep.
And the contract was signed that Tyler, in fact, would supply that. And now what you're saying is that you cannot meet the schedule. And we understand a person getting sick and those kinds of things. But as a commitment in a contract, as I understand it, Tyler signed the contract to do exactly that, to provide the support and the expert persons to satisfy the needs of Dallas County in this endeavor.
This is above and beyond traditional maintenance. We are coming to bear resources to help pull scripts and write into a third-party solution that is not ours, and that's at the request of Dallas County. And we are doing that as part of the contract in the sense of it's goodwill, in my opinion. It's not specifically scoped out work. If we were going to do this for another county, we would likely draw up a professional service agreement specifically for this work. We haven't done that. We've tackled it as an implementation project, and we continue to put the resources to support it. So that's what we're going to continue to do. We're not going to nickel and dime you and come back and say, it's another $25,000 or $50,000 for any additional work. We're just saying we will bring the resources to bear as needed.
Mr. One second.
Baller, okay. I mean,
and if I may, OCA reporting, as well as some of the other items that we recently were able to bring forth to completion, that should have been part of the criminal court's deployment. So it's something that was accounted for, it just wasn't delivered upon go live. So when I hear we would treat this different, it was a deliverable.
Yeah, it was a deliverable.
Yes, sir.
And we have, from an OCA perspective, we have a dedicated state reporting person that's now part of the team.
But we need Soto to get the job done. Ms. Petrie, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, please. It's the chicken.
How important is this task that we're doing right now, the OCA reporting?
It's massive. We haven't reported since we went live in May.
Right, and it needs to be done.
Absolutely.
And Tyler needs to bring the resources in order to accomplish the task to help you, true?
Absolutely. We do have Zach, who's doing a decent job, but we always have to wait for Soto to provide us with the information. So we have been waiting for a script for the past 3 weeks. Because it's so massive, we don't know it's an issue until we run across it. And we're processing every day. We're correcting every day manually. We've done House Bill 1152. That was manual. That was for an entire year. We report every month on the judge's activity, their court activity. That's a manual process, and it's manual because OCA is not working. So that is very time-consuming for my staff. We met November 8th, as a matter of fact. We've been meeting with Tyler and IT 3 times a week since November 8th, and we are no further today than we were on November 8th, other than my staff manually correcting.
And Mr. Chairman, let me ask, and what I'm asking Tyler is, can you provide a resource plan for Soto, showing his availability to Dallas County for this project and related to the critical path timeline for this project? Can you provide that to Dallas County?
Not specifically right in this moment, no. If you're asking me to go back and identify...
You're not doing it at this moment. I'm asking you to delete. At the end of the day, you've heard us all.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
Soto's the guy. You just heard Ms. Petrie.
Yes, sir.
So can you take and provide a plan on this critical path, a timeline that he can be in Dallas County? They've said 20 hours, okay? You're saying can't do 20 hours. And I take it that was 20 hours a week for the next 4 months.
Yes, sir. What we've done is for each of the steps, we've outlined the resources, the dates and times that we're looking to meet in person. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm back to, so can you provide, Judge, here's another one of those words, concretize a plan for Soto?
I like that word.
Yes.
So and I hadn't said anything to you, and I'm just listening, but really need you to do that, to get as much of his time as you can. Hear what you're saying. You can't have somebody just sit there and burn money while no one is utilizing. So it's up to all of us to make sure our people are there at the times when we can all work out to be there. But can we get that done? Because I think that's the piece.
Yes.
That's the remaining thing.
Well, what I would say is Ms. Petrie is correct. It is a lot of manual effort on her staff to get to the bottom line of what it is that we need, so we can deliver to you.
But the operative, thing was she just got through telling us she'll be waiting 3 weeks for Soto.
So here's what I'd like to suggest, if I may. It sounds like we'll have an opportunity to collaborate with Mr. Anderson to get a detailed schedule as to dates, times, meeting place, things of that nature. So we'll collaborate with Tyler on that to package that. And the other item I wanted to bring up as to we're looking to also assign a PM resource to this. So once we actually have the schedule and we're meeting in person, that resource will also be responsible for a daily accounting as to here's what we're looking to do today. At the end of the day, if it got done, great. If it didn't, why? From an accountability perspective, whether it's Tyler, IT services, or the district clerk's office.
Well, that's on you.
Yes, and then we'll be reporting that back on a weekly basis as we look to track progress towards the finalized schedule.
Right. Yeah, but that's on you. You get the PM.
Yes.
But we back on him on Soto.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Soto's.
Yeah, and if it isn't Soto, then it better not be some guy who says, well, I have to get back with you after I talk to Soto. It better not be that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I mean, amen. I mean, we have gone through this for how many months now? A year? I mean, it's amazing that we're still working on a schedule so everybody can be together and follow it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be easier if it's
now.
Just
Do we have?
No, I don't think
I'm sorry,
so.
Mr. Chairman. Do we have Mr. Ballard and do we have the internal resources from the department, both from Ms. Petrie and IT?
We do have the resource from IT, and we're confirming who the project manager from IT is. So we will have that. Okay. And then from a district clerk's perspective, Ms. Petrie has.
Do you have the internal resources to dedicate to the same thing we're charging? It's one thing for us to charge Tyler up. It's another thing for us to say, hey, we're here. So do you have them as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So.
Right.
One more time, let the record reflect that we are on Plan Z1.
So our deliverable back to the committee would be the schedule, detailed schedule, detailed resource plan back to the committee.
With Soto's availability.
And after that, theoretically, we're done. We're not. I know we're using it, but it's implemented. It's functioning.
Well, once we have the schedule and the resource plan, it should be able to lay out here is when we're looking to meet these deliverables and timelines and everything else with that, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to.
So we'll hear one more thing, Mr. Chairman. We'll hear from you in regards to Soto.
Yes.
Path. When?
You made it very clear, and I will get back to the IT shop.
By.
He said this week.
This week.
Oh, this week.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear that. Okay.
For sure.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm moving on to IT. Applications and duplications. Ms. Tran, good to see you. Sorry, say again.
Did you want to talk about the organization proposal
Yes, of course.
or the application rationalization?
I would like to talk about both.
Okay, great. All right. My name's Justine Tran, CIO. And if we could go to the, how do I just proceed? All right, I'll try to be brief. So we've got two things to go over today. One is the proposed IT organization. I'll go through that. And then Mohammed will take us through the application rationalization. So with that, I want to recap some Gartner recommendations. There are 5 things they recommended. Make sure that we have a methodology to manage IT investments. There's also a need to increase spend investment in our infrastructure and our infrastructure workforce. Also take a look at how IT is organized, which is what we're going to talk about today. And also build up the IT leadership competency and define a future state and strategic plan. So again, that's recap from Gardner. I've presented a lot of this information in separate meetings, so this is just another recap in terms of the reorganization that I am pushing IT. I went through the operating model, the engagement model, the planning model, communication model. The outcomes of those models is really to focus on execution excellence, making sure we're delivering consistently high quality, reliable performance solutions, accountability and transparency, and also agility. And a large part of the transformation we want to focus on too, well, not a large part, but really what is going to be demanded of IT as well as our departments and our partners is a cultural and mind shift. We want to change from kind of how we work today, silos, compliant, reactive, to cross-functional teams, more empowerment, accountability, and more agile. So then I want to, here we're talking about having dedicated teams to develop expertise, having a more agile framework. And what I want to focus on is at the bottom there, building new capabilities. We really don't have some of these capabilities today that we need to build and mature. And I can show you that a little more with the org chart. This is our current org chart. We have an applications team. We have a PMO that manages our projects. We have a budget team. We have infrastructure. And we have security that we partner with. And the organization that we're looking at, and again, we're talking about capabilities that don't exist today that we really need to focus on. Everything in red is something that we really don't have today. If you look at quality engineering, is something we don't have. We don't have engagement organization.
A little bit bigger for.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Judge, realization, you need glasses.
I do need glasses. I didn't bring my glasses, but could you make that fit the whole screen? There's a lot of tiny red words there.
There's also part of the handout.
Gosh. Oh, wow, you're worse than me.
The key message here is that we have capabilities that we need to build. Example is data and data analytics and data strategy. So going on to the last slide, which is around the organization and what we're proposing, and we worked with budget on some of these numbers. So if you look at the current staff that we have and the way that it's allocated, so I won't read all of it, but and then in this reorganization that I've talked about, you can see how it's kind of leveled off. We've kind of reallocated some staff from apps to other areas, and then the new is the focus that we're talking about in terms of building new capabilities and how that's allocated. Bottom line, in terms of budget impact, is $6.2 million.
Say that number again?
Yes. Bottom line for the 39 is $6.2 million.
But part of that is moving people off of contract in-house.
That's correct.
That's actually a savings.
Yes.
So is that savings calculated in the 6.2?
No. So what you'll see on the that's in professional services.
Yeah.
So those are positions that will be moved into it, and there will be some savings. We have 5 on for this coming up Commissioners Court, and then we're going to identify some additional ones. This is truly with the vacancies that's there now, and if with the recommended positions, it'll be between $5 to $6 million, depending on the cost of it, of the top tier positions. So the high end is $6.2 million.
And so we just don't know how much we're going to save on moving people from
the contract to the.
Yeah,
so the first one, the first 5, you saw about $200,000 savings that you'll see on the agenda.
Okay.
This upcoming court. So that's for the 5, and then
be more than $1 million a year in savings, probably.
Probably about 1.3 million is what we kind of estimated.
Okay, so this is what's shown on the screen here is an updated staffing summary that we were given.
Wow.
Because you've increased from 32 to 39 new members, a total of 184 is what we were shown before, and now it's 191.
Yeah, what I sent you earlier was a bit of a mistake. It's actually 39, right? We have 7 vacancies, which is kind of the 32, but the budget reflects the 39.
Okay, so it's actually the 6.286.818 million.
That's correct.
All right.
That doesn't include benefits, though.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
it includes salary and
includes
benefits.
Salary and benefits.
Yes.
Let me, at the end of the day, how many vacancies do you have?
We have 7 vacancies that is going to be accounted within the 39. So net new is 32.
Yes, correct. That's what we calculated with. Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on.
Good morning.
Mohammed, I've been looking forward to hearing from you.
Yes, sir. Mohammed Firoz, Chief Systems Architect, IT Services. We're working on rationalizing our applications and finding duplicates. I do want to acknowledge that this has taken quite long. One of our challenges has been a lack of a single source of truth for all of this data, so we can collect all the information, the key information that we can use to then rationalize. So that's kind of what took quite a bit. So what we are now doing is, for the last few months, we've employed a different approach. We've identified a lot of the key information already for our application portfolio. That includes all the applications and tools. And at this moment, by the end of March, we should have everything identified as far as the tools we have currently in our ecosystem.
This is just an inventory of all the applications, right?
And the tools, yes, sir.
And so we've never had an inventory of all of the programs before.
We do have the inventory. There's a lot of data that we're collecting for that inventory that is taking more time. In addition to all that information that's critical, because the next phase of that will rely on the data, but also working with the team to make recommendations. So we do have the inventory. It's over 200 and plus, I don't have the exact number,
right,
of applications and software and tools that we have.
But what you don't have yet is the number that are duplicative. True?
Yes, sir. However, as we're collecting the information, we have asked the team to recommend those that they think can be consolidated. As Ms. Justine pointed out, we have a list, but we don't have a lot of information about the applications on that list, such as criticality, such as can they be consolidated. So that's also something we are seeking input from the team right now. So we are also calculating that.
So inventory done. Next step, figuring out which ones are duplication. When's that deadline?
So April, May, and June, those 3 months we are trying to plan, prioritize, and classify all the inputs we've obtained from the team. And we have a few decision drivers based on the newer cloud strategy that we have and the newer technology stack, because we want to kind of narrow down on our technology stack. Right now we see a sprawl of different technology, and that makes it hard to maintain, and also for our staff to have all those skills to correctly support, sustain that technology. So those 3 months, April, May, and June, we are going to use these drivers that are listed there to weigh in all the inputs we've obtained from the team to measure those against these drivers and prioritize, which would feed it. Yes, sir.
Okay, so do I understand you correctly that in June you're going to come to us with recommendations of which programs no longer need to be in the inventory because they duplicate with another, and we can move them over to the from one system to the other?
That
True?
is correct, yes. By June, we're coming up with a multi-year strategic roadmap for the different applications we have, those that can be decommissioned, replaced, consolidated, where there's cost savings, where we identify perhaps new technology that we need to bring to our ecosystem. All of that we're going to have by the end of June. Yes, sir.
So for continuous improvement in June, that's when I can expect this presentation. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm putting it on the calendar.
And one more thing, I mean, with this, whatever we have to do, I mean, consolidation or whatever, a cost analysis of all this.
Yeah, savings.
Okay, sounds good. Ready for June.
Can I also recommend, Mr. Chair, that Mr. Tran also use that time to speak to the departments that are going to be impacted before that June meeting so that no one's surprised in June.
Yeah, and they should show to that
Excellent.
June meeting if they have any objections to the move. Okay.
And she still
Good.
maintains on the scale of 1 to 10 that she inherited a department of 4. Right. Go ahead.
Well, it was 5.
Oh, it was 5. Oh, you'll go ahead on, Brother Muhammad.
Thank you so much.
Is it finished? Are you finished with your presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just wanted to mention that we're also going to do the ARP at the same time. We are going to also incorporate that, so we'll have some to speak about it, the ARP as well.
Excellent. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
All right. Let us talk about ERP.
Yes, sir. You have Mr. Pena here and also
Hi.
Mr. Lewis.
So glad to hear from them.
Please, some good news. Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. It's BJ George with the Accenture team.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Judge Jenkins, Omar Pena, responsible executive for Dallas County.
Right. All right. Hit it. It's all yours.
Thank you for the opportunity to come before you. I think over the past year, I remember being before this body when we had just taken over this and having a very frank discussion amongst us about the needs that were before the county and the roadmap that we laid out to address many of those needs. And I think you'll be delighted as well as very supportive of the efforts of the team thus far. And I'll ask Mr. George, and although Mr. Polani doesn't have a role in speaking at this point, but we must give credit where credit is due. And if it wasn't for their efforts here, we wouldn't stand before you today with the news that we have to share with you as well.
All right. If we can move to the timeline slide, it's a couple of. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. There we go. And we'll just use this slide to kind of briefly cover as we enter our second year in supporting the ERP for Dallas County. So over 2024, we've accomplished quite a bit. We've had the Big Rocks initiatives that the court's been very supportive of, that we use to stabilize the system, both from the HR side as well as the finance and procurement side. We've made some governance and change management implementations, including the Enterprise Transformation Office that Mr. Lester is leading. And so we feel pretty confident that the system is stable, as you can see, by mid-2024. And then that has allowed our team, working in partnership with Dallas County, to now further the value coming out of the system. So the last half of 2024, we implemented the compensation module, as well as we're on the tail end of implementing the recruiting systems, which have already realized value for the HR processes within Dallas County. And that has gone well. The county's team has been trained. They've been very involved in all of the testing, and they feel confident in the use of it. And now we just launched the next phase of it, which is the guided learning module, which will allow the county to continue to hire new people, put new people into using the system well, use the system much more the way it's defined without having to do hand-holding all the time and those kind of things. So we feel really good about where we are, but I'll pause and see if there's any questions.
Hearing none?
So,
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
So at what point in time are you just going to be able to just totally hand it off to Dallas County?
Yeah, we've actually been working with Mr. Lester and the steering co on laying out the next roadmap for the next 2 years. And as we lay it out, we've identified opportunities where there'll be items that Mr. Lewis's team will be leading, and where we can support, and where they feel confident they can start taking over and moving some of those things. As an example, on the guided learning, we'll go through that implementation, but what will be left behind is a set of instructions, as well as their own team's ability to add new learning modules into it and things like that.
Mr. Lewis, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, you understand the essence of where I'm going with this?
Yes, Commissioner. And the way if you guys remember, the way the contract was constructed with Accenture for the purple line there says application managed services. That's the ongoing support. So the way the contract was designed, we sort of ramped down those efforts year over year. So essentially what should end up happening, and we're not there yet, is that we'll be what we call level 1 and 2 support, probably internal to Dallas County, and Accenture will be our level 3, so our most experts until we determine such time we want to change that. And that's really based on sort of how we staffed initially, the projects from the slide we're going to show. Because what we've been doing is each of these projects, we decide, hey, we want to do this as a work effort that we need done in this timeline. Then Accenture will give us a quote for that. So that's how Oracle Recruiting Cloud and Guided Learning, those two HR systems, were implemented. So I don't see that model changing, other than I'm given instruction that we want to ramp all the way and have all of the resources inside. But right now, we're not doing that. We're operating under that model.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
No further questions?
No.
Anything else?
Yeah, I wish to thank the Commissioners Court for the opportunity to help Dallas County get through those particularly challenging times.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. I'm going to skip over the fire marshal and CJIS and go to economic and community development. I'm up to the committee as to whether we come back to the fire marshal or push him to the next time. Up to the committee. Don't care either way.
We can push it to next time, but this is how. Okay, go ahead.
But I want to do the economic and community development program policy.
Yeah, but go ahead on. I'll yield to Mr. Bazan. But I've read this. I'm having a real difficult time understanding where's the policy. I understand all the statutes and all. Where's the policy?
Thank you, Commissioner, and I'll ask Mr. Tamayo to also come up, who will be giving the presentation. For the last 2 budget cycles, the court has been allocated funding for economic and community development projects. Within statute, there's a lot of opportunities to fund various initiatives, mostly sourcing in the Chapter 380 agreements. Chapter 380 code, which kind of outlines various economic community development projects. There's also a lot of other opportunities for community-based projects, working with the different members over the last year and a half. Parks projects, transportation-focused projects, where there was better statute available to source as we were moving through these different grants and agreements, became available. So to actually, year one, I thought was more of a pilot approach by budget to set up economic and community development projects. They were very successful. You funded them this year. Now we want to equip each Commissioners Court member with kind of an easy track to move forward with any future projects. So from a legal perspective, it would be easier to move our projects through the legal process if there was an actual program with all the source statutes listed within that policy to operate within. So this is staff's approach to make things easier for a court member to move forward a various project. that is in the economic or community development sphere.
Well, and Mr. Chair, my concern is that when I read that, and I've said, are we going to report back what I call the real metrics of it, or did we just go spend $1 million here and $1 million there? And
that's a really good question. I think if we just maybe gave a few more months, a number of these projects from last year are already cycling towards results too. So we should be reporting out the results of each of those grants. To answer your question, sir.
Okay, Mr. Chair. Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Luis Tamayo, Planning and Development. Thank you, Mr. Bazan. That's a great synopsis. Go to the next slide. Our current economic development policy focuses on requests from private entities. Oh, thank you. Oh, there we go. Did I just break it? I hit next slide. Oh, there it is. All right. So those policies provide the parameters for the types of requests that are eligible. So we're seeking to kind of expand the current policy to include a program to consider economic and community development projects brought forward by the County Commissioners Court. And these are very different, obviously. They serve to create competitive advantage for the county, create economic value, strategic growth. And what we'd like to do is develop that program. There we go. So that we can create a legal framework to move these projects through faster. There's already a good number of statutes that provide us the ability to develop economic development programs and projects. We can use Chapter 381 that we do for our private agreements. We can use that internally. There are ways to expedite the bidding process. There are ways to, through the Chapter 2306, for example, lets us do homeless programs, particularly those for transitional housing. There's a large number of statutes. We'd like to consolidate those into this program so that we can have good templates to move these programs and projects through the legal review expeditiously. So the program focus will leverage the statutory authority to foster economic opportunity. That's stimulate jobs, create business development and entrepreneurship, improve infrastructure, public facilities, transportation systems, parks, to enhance quality of life, address our critical needs, housing stability, improve access to health care, et cetera, educational opportunities, and to promote environmental responsibilities or sustainability projects that the county's been initiating.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, and this is where I back up, become a little perplexed. I mean, we've got the CHNA, we've got this entire, Parkland Hospital, $3 billion, and here we are talking about critical social need, housing stability, improve access to health care, expand, there's an opportunity. That all of that is just so broad, and I know years ago when I got on this court, one of the things that people always said that we shouldn't, and I'm going to go to this school voucher or Robin Hood plan or whatever it is. It's the same thing. Well, reversed. Yeah, well, I ain't so sure, but okay. Nonetheless, but my problem is that we
take from the needy and give to the greedy. That's what it is.
Well, hey, here when you start talking about money that we've already appropriated and paid for with our taxes on the Parkland side, and talking about improving access to health care, that's what they should be doing, and that's what we should be charging them with doing.
And Commissioner, I think that's just meant to increase the scope. It's not necessarily getting in the healthcare business.
Is it possible for us to get a copy of this presentation? Because first of all, I mean, this is what was in the packet. There are 8 pages. There are 5 possible here that, I'm sorry, I cannot read.
We're happy to resend that, and I think if you look at the first email, it had the full presentation, but the send out had that error, so we'll be sure to resend that to you. But Commissioner, I mean, this is intentionally broad to make it easier for you to move forward various projects, and I'll just give an example from this past year. Dr. Garcia had 2 different projects, widely different. One was assisting Bulb Springs with playground equipment. They didn't have funding to complete.
Dr. Garcia in Bulb Springs?
Excuse me, Grand Prairie.
Grand Prairie.
Grand Prairie.
Okay.
And they needed some additional funding to make it work for one of their projects. The grant assisted with that, and they actually recently just held their ribbon cutting for that event. On the other side of the spectrum, I'm working with Dallas College to establish an ESL program with them. I mean, that came out of the same program. From a staff perspective, we just need a framework to be able to move forward with these projects to help you. Yeah. Same thing with your project. You had a transportation-related project, which, I mean, from my experience, is clearly economic development. However, going through our legal processes, they did not view it as such. They wanted us to use another exception. So what we're trying to do is just compile the different statutes that allow us to do different community and economic development projects into a policy so that we can move this program forward. And big picture, I mean, this is $6 million a year total. This isn't a big
but
big
growth
program.
and development follows transportation. It doesn't follow playground.
Oh, I understand that completely. Well, that's community development. That's the other side of the statute.
Yeah, well, and okay. But
and it's discretionary to each district. Each district has different needs. The judge has his own funding from a county-wide perspective, but each district has its own needs, and you would know that best.
Yeah. Okay. It's broad, but okay, got it.
So I'll move on to our next steps, which are to ensure that we have all the statutory mechanisms in one place and that they're all being explored. If there's a tool, we want to be able to make that available to you in one spot. Identify the best mechanisms to partner with our nonprofit agencies, public agencies, educational institutions. We're able to do that under state law, under certain statutes. We want to make sure that we have a template to use with them and create project types that we can essentially use the right statutes with the right types of partners, with the right types of projects, put these together. And then the last bit is to make sure we have a monitoring mechanism. If we say we're going to increase economic development by doing something, we want to make sure that we accomplish that goal, and then find out if it's something we want to replicate.
When is the due date to put the meat on these bones?
Started that now. We want to bring that to you as quickly as possible. I would like to touch base with each one of you to make sure that the types of projects that you're considering, we have the right statutes in place and that we can do that. I'm sorry I didn't give a definite date, but we'll be moving forward as quickly as possible.
So by the end of the spring, by the end of, say, May?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's, let's see, what else do I have? Okay. So the first one, they'll be working with Civil DA, of course, to make sure we have all the statutes. And then, those best mechanisms, want to make sure that we have some templates ready to go. But I'm open to any other questions at this point.
Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Great. So moved.
No public comment here?
Oh, yeah, public comment? Public comment. Anybody for public comment? Hearing none? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move.
Good. Say second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What's
Thank
for
you.
lunch? No, I'm sorry.
That's all right. You did good.
I'm sorry you ended up on the road. These are just a little ball. You covered a lot.